And we should be live. Usually I wait a couple of seconds, but well, great. So let's see. I'm very happy. Yeah, I'm super excited today to have Stephanie. And I think we will wait some seconds and then we will start. How are you, Stephanie? How has been your day? Is it morning? Maybe?
Yeah. I'm doing well. I've had my coffee. It's 9 a.m. I'm ready to get the day started, but it's Friday, so it means the weekend is just around the corner.
Exactly. And I think that I don't know if you've seen the HBO mailing problem. They got an intern sent like 1 million of test mail.
Really?
Yeah. It's the thing that Twitter is talking about all day long today.
I need to check that out. So much. Oh my. Okay. Well, my Friday is a little bit better than that, but
and the official HBO account said, it was the intern. They put that in the funny way.
They're like, yeah, that's the intern. No, but really, that was the intern. I swear.
Yeah. They say they said it was the intern. Yeah, really, it was.
Those interns can't trust them.
It's always the intern. Yeah. Hi, Harvind. Hi, Mr. Codes. Luran. Hey there. I love your hat.
Hello.
Man. Yeah. He has been my guest a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I interview a lot of people, let's say. This started almost for fun with some of my friends. And now it's something. It's not more something small. But I think that I've seen you on Twitter. I'm not sure on Twitter, on YouTube. I've seen that you do very stunning videos, quality. We were talking about this, so we can talk also about this, your experience with videos.
Yeah.
But let's start. I'll start maybe introducing you a little bit for what I know. Stephanie Wong is a developer advocate at Google. She lives in San Francisco, and I've seen her background is she has been like in beauty contests. I don't know if you pronounce this in English. Should be something like that.
Pageant, yes.
So I was shocked because I didn't know this. Usually, when I ask to come on my show, I would say, okay, let's see maybe what she did some days before. I checked that. And I started also seeing something on YouTube, some old videos of you in this contest. So I like doing these interviews because I want to show that we are not just developers like coding like this all day long in a corner in a dark room. But so I'm super curious about that. Thank you for coming, Stephanie. And just let me put something if I remember. Should have something like a message. I can't remember. Okay, don't worry. Okay, if you have any questions, just put that in the comments. Okay, Stefan, I think we can start. So if you can start a little bit with your background, and then we will talk about your current role. Okay?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
so
perfect.
As you said, I'm from San Francisco, California, born and raised here, never left. So feeling fortunate that I grew up in, what happened to be the heart of technology. And that's sort of how I ended up working in tech. So currently I'm a developer advocate at Google. I've been in DevRel for about 3 years, and I was a customer engineer prior to that. And so really my background when I started working was with customers. So I was customer facing. I would consult enterprise, small to mid-sized businesses on cloud technology. Prior to working at Google, I actually started my career at Oracle, another big tech company, and did not know I was going to end up in technology at all. So I can talk a little bit more about that later, but I started as a sales engineer there as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is very interesting. So from where do you want to start? Because they start from their childhood, like I was coding on the legs of my father or something like that. You can start from whatever point you want, something in the middle. Sometimes it's just, I started coding 6 months ago, but from where would you like to start about the technology, but even a little bit before? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So I did not even know that I was going to end up in this field. So initially, when I was in school, I was always that person who had no idea what major I was going to select in college or university. So I ended up majoring in communication studies because I went to school in LA. I thought that would be a good path to working in movies and production and entertainment. I actually thought I wanted to go into entertainment. And I did like learning about interpersonal communication and the theory behind how humans communicate and how you persuade other people, how you tell stories. So I did that, but then there happened to be a new major at UCLA. It's called Digital Humanities, and it's the intersection between humanities and technology. So it's all about digitizing these more traditional fields of history, literature, humanities practices. So I ended up doing that and learning a little bit about information systems and content management systems, web design, data visualization and analysis. And though I didn't really have a particular interest in going deep into it or becoming a coder, I did enjoy learning about, being a little bit hands-on and learning about the effects of it in society. So that's sort of how I had a little bit more background in that. And ultimately, when I started doing my job hunt, I ended up getting the role at Oracle. And I thought, well, I don't know anything about enterprise technology, but it seems like a good place to start.
Yeah, and I think that we can talk about this, of course, later. But I think that communication, what people call soft skills, maybe it could be better call them like human skills or something like that. But it's something that I think that we lack a little bit of that. Of course, I'm saying this in general. So I think we need to work more in communication, even if we work at computers with tech. So since we are passing, I don't know, more in the 60s, I don't know where it was really starting to understand what really computers are. Now, I think in some ways it's simpler, in some ways it's more difficult, but so how has been your first role in tech?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I didn't really have much context about enterprise technology. And so the only thing I knew about Oracle was that it was a big company, but I didn't really know what they did. And as you know, today, they're a major relational database company, started one of the first relational database designs, and went into acquiring many companies, including Sun Microsystems, SaaS technologies like CRM systems, e-business suite, way more now. So when I went into that, they actually had a training for all entry-level positions. So I started with a cohort of over 200 people from various universities in the country. And so it was made up of a lot of salespeople, but also part of it was sales engineers, which were the people who were supposed to be the more technical counterpart. So we needed to learn how the technology worked, a lot of whiteboarding sessions, architecting, and understanding other people's environments and how this could fit in. So that's how I ended up in tech, was essentially starting from a blank surface and learning all of it in the job. So I feel like I had a different background because I didn't start in traditional developer work or computer science, and yet I sort of just got thrown into it in my first role. And I enjoyed it. I mean, I love learning about technology, even if I'm less of a traditional developer. I still really enjoyed learning about the more enterprise environment.
Yeah, thank you. I have a question. Was this experience exactly what you thought that would have been, or maybe something different? Because I think that when you thought, okay, let's start in this area, maybe you had some thoughts about tech. I don't know. They are always at PC. They don't communicate so much, or maybe I don't know, something else. So was it this what you was expecting, or there was something totally different?
I didn't know what I expected. I think I went into it just thinking about it like, okay, this is the start of my career. Brace yourself for a boring lifestyle. But then it ended up actually being a lot more exciting than I imagined, because at the time I only knew more about consumer facing technology. So mobile design and things that you could use as a consumer, but I didn't know too much about B2B technology. And so learning about how about a full stack, about various architectural designs was interesting to me because it was new, it was difficult. And I would say the main things I found different from my expectations were how to interact with business level stakeholders. Like, it's not like you're just talking with the product team that you're used to in college where you're designing your product. At this point in my career, I was actually interacting with people who needed to buy the product or engineering leadership that was implementing the product. I ended up going into implementation my second and third year of working at Oracle. So I really understood the challenges and the pain points that came with implementing some of Oracle's products. And so it really gave me that empathy that I think is important for anybody in DevRel, especially any customer facing role.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you so much. From Oracle, did you go directly to Google, or there was something in the middle? Just to understand the process, the path, if you have done something in the meanwhile.
Yeah. So at the time, I thought after 3 years at Oracle, I wanted to figure out what I wanted to do next. Not that I didn't enjoy what I was doing at Oracle. I just felt like I wanted to travel. I wanted to take some time. So I initially planned on traveling for a few months. And right when I was about to embark on this journey, Google had reached out. And it's kind of funny that Google reached out to me because I had been trying to apply to Google for years since college. In college, they pretty much only targeted engineering students. So because I wasn't an engineering major or computer science, I didn't qualify. So I applied a few times throughout the 3 years I worked at Oracle, but I did not have the basic qualifications needed for the roles that they were hiring for. After 3 years, I realized I had the experience they were looking for. I had cloud enterprise experience. I had experience at being an implementation engineer, helping customers with cloud platform and infrastructure as a service products. And at that point, it just happened to be this time when cloud technology was burgeoning and rapidly expanding. All the major cloud providers like Google, Oracle, Microsoft, AWS, they were hiring like crazy, trying to beat one another in the market. And so I felt like at my time at Oracle, I actually strategically positioned myself to learn the skills necessary to be highly sought after. So they reached out to me to be a sales rep, and I did not want to be a sales rep, but I decided to go through the interview process anyway because I knew that it would be valuable for my experience. So I went all the way to the last round. I got an offer, and it wasn't what I wanted. First of all, it wasn't the role that I wanted, and the offer wasn't exactly what I wanted. So I ended up turning that down, which a lot of people were like, why would you do that? It's Google. You could just get your foot in the door first. But I knew that if I'd made that decision, it would set me off on a path that wasn't optimized for what I wanted. So I turned that down, and then I was like, I'm just going to keep traveling, whatever. I'll think about it later. 2 months later, they reached out to me for a sales engineering position, which is what I had been doing previously at Oracle. And I thought, well, this is actually more in line with what I wanted to do. It's more technical and it matches my experience. So I ended up going through that interview process and made it through. And that's how I ended up at Google. I cut my travel short, but I think it was a good decision.
Yeah, I really like this story. Sometimes I tweet about this, like it's better to attract a job instead of looking for that. So you are the perfect example. So when you stopped trying to reach them out and working on yourself, they reached out to you. And of course, in that case, I think you are in a way better position because if they reached out you can also talk. I think I don't know if this was made on purpose, but I don't know if we can call this a strategy or not, but I think this paid off. So
yeah.
do you remember your first day at Google? How it was? What happened?
Well, first of all, I'll go back to the time that I interviewed. So the final round of the interview was a presentation to a board of people. So they had various folks from different parts of the business, and they were watching my presentation. I had to do a case study. I had to build a demo for data analytics. And this was the most nervous I'd ever been in an interview because I wanted it so bad. And I stayed up every single night through the late night hours to practice. And even at family parties and friends parties, I was doing the presentation in front of my friends. And they were like, we've heard this presentation so many times. You're fine. But the other thing I wanted to prepare for was questions, right? Any questions that would come up. And so basically when I found out I got the job after a few weeks, I was super excited. And I had built this network while I was interviewing because I actually ended up reaching out to people I knew that worked at Google. And I was like, hey, like I'm interviewing, like any tips that you can give me. And so when I started, I ended up being placed into a team where I already knew a couple people. So that made it a lot nicer and less nerve-wracking for me. But I was excited. Everybody was extremely extremely welcoming and supportive. I was nervous though because I didn't know the environment. I remember getting on the wrong bus because they had buses routing people to all the different campuses. I got on the wrong bus. I ended up at a different building and I had to take a different bus back, and I was really nervous. So it just kind of felt like the first day at school when you're on campus and you don't know anyone and you don't know how to get anywhere.
Yeah, but in some ways it's also exciting. You remember that when you start making some connections with really brand new people. Yeah, and I'm sure that they welcomed you in a very well way. I hope so. Yeah, we have a question from Liran. What was the difference between Google and Oracle in these roles? So I think also what you did exactly, if you had maybe a slightly different position. Honestly, I don't know almost anything about even the difference between DevRel and developer advocate. I think there are two different roles, or they are the same.
Yeah, I'll explain it. So I guess going back to your question for Oracle versus Google, well, I did the same role at both. So I started at Oracle as a sales engineer, and then I started at Google as a sales engineer. But in between those jobs, I also did something at Oracle called Customer Success Manager, or that's also when I did implementations for customers. So I'll just talk about the differences there. So sales engineering at Oracle is you are partnering with the sales team and you go into their accounts, you work with their clients, and you are essentially the person who helps architect solutions. You can do POCs or proof of concepts for customers. You do a lot of presentations. You conduct workshops. You're essentially the technical client-facing person. Same thing at Google. I would say the main difference between the culture between the two is that Google is a little bit less, I don't want to say sales focused, but a little bit less sales focused. Google tends to be a very highly engineering focused company. So the sales engineer at Google, the programs, the expectation is for you to be highly technical or specialized even. And they do have quite a number of sales engineer positions that are highly specialized in, let's say you're a network specialist or you are a machine learning expert. And so I think there's a little bit of a cultural difference there. And then between customer success means that you are post-sale. So let's say the customer already brought the product and you are there to make sure that you can escalate their issues. You can work with support to make sure that any issues are resolved, but also you're there to help implement the product. So I was there helping to actually port over their databases from on-premise over to the cloud, make sure that things were up and running. If they needed to set up high availability, I would teach them how to do that, set up their encryption keys, etc., whatever. I would basically teach them how to get started and onboard onto the product. Now, I eventually transitioned into DevRel, and we can talk about that because that was an interesting transition. But the difference between DevRel and DA is that DevRel is the overall encompassing organization. It's developer relations. And within developer relations, you have developer advocates, you have developer or technical writers who write documentation. You also have DPEs or developer programs engineers who focus on supporting client libraries and the overall ecosystems for the products themselves. And they might also write tutorials, code labs, etc. There's a little bit of overlap between the roles. You may see some people in those roles doing some similar work.
Thank you. This was really pretty clear. I remember this explanation. Thank you. So now at least I know the difference. Perfect. Thank you so much. And Liran, perseverance, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, now we have this question for you because you asked for tips to other people, and now they're asking tips for you. Okay. So I don't know if you, Zwag, are you talking about something in particular? But I think something in general. So what do you suggest? What do you think it's something that's really a good tip for someone who start making interviews?
Yeah. So, okay, I will speak from my own experience because I actually started in a different role where I didn't go through coding interviews. Even when I started in DevRel, I transitioned into DevRel in a very different manner where I was able to essentially convert into the role from what I was doing before, which was sales engineering. So I can't speak in particular to a lot of the details of coding interviews at Google, but what I can say is that from what I've shadowed and conducted in some ways, a lot of practice and studying case studies and what other people have done is obviously important. But, the one thing about coding interviews is that sometimes you may be asked about topics and languages that you are not necessarily comfortable with or you don't have much experience in. So I think one of the things that sometimes interviewers are looking for is more so your logical process and how you think about the problem at hand. So as long as you can be very transparent and communicative about how you are solving the problem and the various variables that you are thinking about, then lay it out for them. Be clear, be transparent. Explain every step of the process, because even if you don't necessarily understand the full background of what they're asking for, at least they can see the potential in what you can achieve once you're in the position. That being said, I believe that there's a movement to change coding interviews a bit, to ask more and make it a little bit more holistic. And instead of saying, okay, we need you to solve this particular problem, what would be the algorithm that you would use? So I think they're trying to make it a little bit more holistic in the future. But as of now, I would say walk through your entire thought process.
Yeah, thank you. I've been also a recruiter, and I can just add just this, that you should always be honest, as you say, like transparent and honest. And I think it's never a good idea to lie during an interview. Maybe it's better to say, I don't know exactly what is this, instead of saying something. Or maybe you say, I've done this project, then they ask you, okay, what was your role that? And if you can't go in details, it's a bad situation, I think. So this is something that I could say. Also, yeah, what you put in your resume should really reflect what you actually can do, because sometimes maybe I think that the interviewer itself would like maybe also to help you by asking some questions about your resume. So you should be an expert of what is written in there. I know that this sounds obvious, but let's repeat that because it's better.
Yeah, agreed.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So you were talking about traveling, and I was thinking about maybe has been better that you have traveled maybe more in the past, because what about the situation during these 2 years? Because I think it changed a little bit how always we have been living, I think. So how has been your life in the last 2 years?
Yeah, the last 2 years have been actually not bad. So as you know, we all work remotely now, and so I've had to transition how I create my content in DevRel. We actually got shipped. I have an incredible team that I work with at Google, so I feel very fortunate that I have resources available to have help with production and equipment. So they were able to do some research to figure out what works in people's homes and consult us on how to have the best setup. So I have a full work from home camera setup, lighting, mic, etc. And I still do podcasting from home, still do a lot of that work, and have continued to do it, but with the added benefit of being able to work in other cities. So I was in California, but I also spent 6+ months working in Hawaii as well, and came back to California recently. So I've just had to carry all this equipment around with me, but it hasn't been too bad. And to be honest, I know that the year has been difficult for many people. So I just want to say, this has not been an easy year for everyone. And some people have decided to focus even more on work, and while other people have had difficulty focusing on work. So for me, in the beginning of the pandemic, I actually targeted all my energy to my career even more. And I know that hasn't been the case for a lot of people, but I was able to make even more progress in pushing out content, pushing out videos that I had been working on for the last year, and getting more recognition for that. And I got promoted during the year as well. So it ended up being great. I have had spells of me being a little burnt out throughout the year. So, it's a cycle for me, goes up and down.
Yeah. I think also for me, I've started creating content. Finally, I started my YouTube channel after 10 years of trying, and I've never had time. This was an excuse, of course, but finally I bought that camera 10 years ago. I said I started making videos, and I started in August. But now it's going well. I'm doing this. So we have a lot of questions. Just do them. But please remember that I want to ask you about your podcast, because this is really interesting for me. I'm just getting started. I have some experience now. Okay, this is very hard to pronounce. Viswa Prasad. Okay. How can we build a portfolio for DevRel? And I don't know what DPE stands for.
Oh, DPE is what I mentioned earlier, which is another role that was at Google called Developer Programs Engineer. But in particular, I think one of the things that you can do for careers in DevRel, and what I tell people all the time, is to pretend like you're already in the role and come out with a lot of your own content, tutorials, blog posts, be active on social. make your online presence your portfolio in a sense, because you want to be seen as a thought leader. A lot of companies are looking for people who are already well known in their domain. So whether you are a representative of a particular area, like you are active in the database scene, analytics, microservice architectures, perhaps a certain language, that's something that you want to make well known, because that's who they're looking for. A lot of DevRel hiring managers don't look for people who are just starting out. It's not really an early stage type of role. So you really want to have already built that portfolio. So be active in forums, go on to podcasts, take opportunities to make your name and put it out there. So that's probably the biggest thing. If you don't feel like you have a product that you can actively work on or share because it's internal, open source projects are a great way to create that portfolio. Obviously, have a public GitHub repo that you can use to show your activity. Anything that you can see as public, and then also partner with various folks. So if you want to do a Kaggle contest, which is a public way of showcasing your work in the analytics scene, that's a great way to partner with different people, build a team, and enter contests, make your work well known.
Nice. This answer was really great. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. We have a lot of questions. You're primarily DevRel activities, so content speaking, which is the main activities?
Yeah, so I've had a different experience in DevRel because I work on a team that is primarily scalable content, meaning that we do a lot of online content. So I have focused my energy through videos, podcasting, that type of thing, online blog posts as well. But traditionally, I would say in DevRel, it's a lot of, conference talks, a lot of in-person events, meetups, understanding developer pain points and their experience, and being that liaison between the developer community as well as product development. So you want to be able to be that feedback loop between the two communities so that you can continuously improve the product and make sure that their feature roadmaps are aligned with what developers want. It's also about evangelism and advocating. So your work is to spread awareness about your product to the rest of the developer community. A lot of the times what leadership expects of you is to go out to conference talks because you are, in a sense, evangelizing, spreading, advocating for the product externally. So doing any kind of interesting feature roadmap talks, things about how to solve particular pain points. If you've seen Kelsey Hightower in the Kubernetes scene, he's great at doing customer empathy and showcasing really great demos about the product, and also being very honest and transparent and candid. So just being that person that people can look to as a candid source of information. That's sort of my style. And I think that's what developers appreciate.
Yeah, perfect. And I like that you keep repeating being transparent with. I think that it's really very important in this role, because it's very important. So I pronounced this name perfectly. So I don't know. I'm not gonna repeating this now because probably I'm gonna fail. Thank you so much. Yeah, perfectly. Stephanie, what about your podcasting? Because I don't know, maybe I've seen something, but what's about? It's a series, it's a weekly, monthly series. Of course, I'm interested into podcasting because I'm inside a podcast.
Yeah, so I took over the GCP podcast, which is the Google Cloud Platform podcast, and that's a weekly series in which we bring on product, external partners, external clients that are using GCP, and just to talk about their story of migrating to the cloud or transitioning over to a particular set of technologies. I also in the past have hosted something called the SaaS podcast, or how I launched this. And that was when I brought on technical leadership from various partners and companies that we work with for Google Cloud to talk about their experience starting their companies and building their teams, and any kind of product hiccups or challenges that they face and how they were able to overcome that, especially during COVID. So I have just started my podcasting journey over the last 1.5 or 2 years, gotten better at it for sure, but it is a big undertaking to do every week, as I'm sure you know, Francesco.
Yeah. But are you the only host, or are you co-hosting this with someone else?
I co-host with another person. It's usually someone new every week. I have this pool of people that I can choose from, but I also love introducing new people onto the podcast. The one that I just recorded today was actually someone from Stockholm. And so I always enjoy networking with various folks. And if they are the ones who recommended the guest, I oftentimes invite them to be the host as well. And we just have a very natural, organic conversation with the guest to talk about their experiences. I just had on someone from a gaming company who talked about their experience having to migrate a vast amount of infrastructure from AWS over to Google Cloud, and also talked about his previous experience having to also migrate over to a microservice architecture on Kubernetes. So it was interesting conversation.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm kind of new of this world of podcasting, but I've done a lot, 116 or something like that, 17. Wow.
You're not new anymore then.
I lost count, but I think, please don't watch my very first ones, because in the beginning it's very hard. Also now maybe a little bit better, because you need to understand a little bit, but and of course having a person like you who is also helping me in this interview, it's always better. It's always welcome. We have other people. Rishab. Nice. Hey there. Yeah, hello. She's been on at DockerCon. She's done a live stream yesterday. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's great. I've seen one video today of you. I think you shared this on Twitter, maybe on YouTube. I can't remember. Maybe I think Twitter. So what was this about? Can you explain a little bit? I can't remember now. Yeah, it was some cool new feature, something like that.
Yeah, so I just launched a new series. It's called What's New in Networking. If you've seen my videos in the past, I started out on this team in DevRel doing video content. And the first topic I decided to focus on was networking, mostly because I was interested in it. I wanted to learn more about it. And there wasn't that much networking content online. So this new series is essentially to go over the past quarter's new updates in the world of networking. And so we've split up each episode into various topics. The first episode that I just launched is covering core infrastructure updates. And so this quarter, we had updates with shared VPC, and we also had updates with MTU settings on interconnect. Now, if you have no idea what I just said, then don't worry about it. You can watch the video to learn more. But essentially, we have a different setup on Google Cloud, shared VPC, and interconnect are two products within our networking portfolio in how you can organize your resources on our cloud. And essentially, we are continuing to come up with updates that allow for more flexibility in how you set that up. If you are a network administrator, and honestly, these days, cloud admins have to be a little bit of network admins in a sense, just to understand how the communication between your virtual machines work. But also, we are making our cloud what we call service-oriented, in that compared to traditional networks, you don't really have to worry about setting up routers, setting up a lot of those things that used to be handled by your network administrators, and now it's handled as a service by Google Cloud. And so it's really just about allowing our audience to understand how service networking works and help translate those concepts over from traditional networking over to service networking.
Perfect. Thank you. That's great. I'm curious now. I think I'll check the video after the interview. Maybe after it's better doing this after rather than now. I've never done this during in the podcast, but maybe in the future. Yeah. So can I ask you a little bit about which socials do you use? Because I think I've been connected with you on Twitter. I think we'll put some links in the description, but for sure she's active on Twitter. Maybe I've added this already in the description. I can't remember. But what about your social media experience? For example, I started in January 2020. Before that, I was really a shadow, a ghost. I never went online. Now I am, let's say, a little bit more active. And
a little bit. You've grown way faster than me. I mean, it really takes dedication. I think that's clear. But yeah, I mean, I am on LinkedIn, Twitter. My Instagram's more dedicated to my personal stuff. So, just life. But Twitter and LinkedIn are obviously for my work within this space. And recently I am working really closely with some folks over on the marketing team at Google to partner on a lot of this content. I essentially want to use Twitter as a great source for people who are just interested in keeping up to date with the latest from Google Cloud, because we have products and features coming out every single day, or just changes, updates, anything. So I wanted to become a person that people can look to for the latest information, have a pulse on Google Cloud and how that fits into the rest of the industry, and be more of a personable figure that isn't just a brand account that seems like it's just a a company
Exactly.
facade.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Thank you. If you have any question, just drop this in the chat. Saying Nice and Liran, they've been both on DockerCon, so they're talking about each other. Yeah. So what about? Do you have maybe in the future some in person events upcoming or not? Or are already
I
done
wish
this?
I
We
wish I could
we
say
all
yes.
wish. Yeah.
Yes. I wish I could say yes, because one cool thing about DevRel normally is that you're able to travel all over the world and go to these various conferences and meetups. But recently we haven't had that option. And so all of our summits have been moved online, which is fine. I mean, that's how it will be for the foreseeable future. I did actually get to film in person 2 weeks ago, which was really weird because it was the first time that I could be on set in person. It was very strict in the rules and what we could do and who had to wear masks and everything, but that was a fun little change in pace. So hopefully I'll still get to do that. I'm planning on creating a video this year about our subsea cables. And so we'll see how that will work. I might be able to go in person and show some cool stuff in our campuses, but who's to say? It's I'm planning right now.
Yeah, let's say. I think we are all waiting. In the meanwhile, we are doing podcasts, and also I have done a lot of videos. But in the meanwhile, I'm waiting. I would like to travel maybe just a little bit more. I was lucky that I've done a travel in Paris in December 2019.
Wow. Yeah.
I was thinking about maybe let's wait on March, but it was better that we went on December.
Yeah. glad you fit that in.
Yeah, because it was very super fast. I started. The only good thing for me is I was doing like 3 hours of commitment per day, or 100 kilometers per day by car, and suddenly that dropped to 0. So I had basically another part-time job.
You're like, I have all this time now. What do I do?
Twitter, basically.
Yep. Channeled it into the online community. I got to give props to you. That's the other thing about social media and building a brand online that I've learned is that you have to do it every single day. So that's what I've been doing, is doing it every single day. Exactly. And you have to be authentic online. You have to seem like a real person. You have to be open about your humor and interesting perspectives and what you bring to the table. It's not just posting. And so I'm trying to get better at that myself.
Yeah. This is also why I like this kind of style, a different style, because I'm a little bit tired of typing. Today, I did a lot of small videos to answer people instead of just chatting. Sometimes I get tired of chat. We already type a lot to code and other stuff. So this is a format that I really like a lot. Yeah. Hey, Annie, how are you?
Hello.
Yeah, I have a lot of people. Yeah. Yeah. So, Stephanie, thank you so much, because I would like to try this developer advocate role maybe in my life, in my career. So I don't know if the best strategy is to look for or maybe wait, because I already had some offers, but I'm not sure still about that. So I don't know, because I think your strategy paid off. So maybe it's better to wait, maybe doing this kind of stuff. Let's see, or I don't know. What do you suggest?
Clearly, my path is going to be the same for everyone. So I guess my biggest piece of advice is you need to enter a beauty contest and you need to start making videos and get into I'm just kidding. You can't start in beauty contests. No. My path was very unconventional. So I don't know that everybody will face the same kind of experience, but I definitely recommend looking into it, because I think DevRel was always one of those things that came up in the last 10 plus years when technology companies started to emerge more prevalently. And so it's been seen as more of a major function within the business, because marketing just doesn't cut it, right? Like when you're trying to connect to our developer audiences, let's say your company has a growing API community, and you can't just use marketing necessarily. You need people to go out there to meet with people and understand developer needs. And so I think the more ingrained in the community you can become, and I keep saying the word thought leader, really position yourself as someone that people can go to as a source, as a resource, as a teacher. And you already follow a lot of the people on Twitter that are big players in the game, people who are leading AWS educational content. You're creating YouTube videos. Like that sort of thing positions you so well for a career in DevRel. So if you enjoy doing that type of work already, then I think you would be a great fit for it.
Let's see. In case, of course, I think I'll send you a message because you already gave me a lot of tips. So in that case, I say, Stephanie, it worked. That was great. So in that case, I'll send you a message. So Stephanie, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this podcast episode. Would you like to say something before we close? Usually, I leave the opportunity to leave a final message, maybe to people. A lot of my audience maybe are also developers who just get started. So maybe about developer advocate or other roles or some general tips. I let you decide. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think there was a question from Laren that asked what I want to do next in my career. And honestly, I don't know. But I will say that what has worked for me in my career so far, I know I talked about positioning myself in a time where cloud was burgeoning and that so eventually led me to opportunities. But I will say I was always find moments in my career where I was a little lost. And what's always worked for me was following my intuition to do the things that made a big splash. So if I knew that I enjoyed video content and I knew that I enjoyed technology and somehow I saw that there was a way to do both together, I just said yes to that. And I kept saying yes to things that were a little bit more visible externally. And that's always worked really well for me. Don't shy away from presentations and putting yourself out there and just sort of getting yourself out of your comfort zone in a way that is challenging and a little bit uncomfortable, but also at least it needs to be exciting to you. As long as it's exciting to you, then go for it. The worst that can happen is that you don't do well, and that's fine. You learn from it and you move on and you get better. And the other thing I'll say is that when I joined DevRel and different roles in my career, I felt major imposter syndrome because I didn't come from a traditional background of being a developer. I felt like I was very far behind and I had a lot to prove. And yet now I feel like I've created a niche where people know me for a different skill set, and that's fine. So it takes time. So if you're feeling like you have a lot to learn or you have a lot to live up to or build in your skill set, then it will take you a couple years to get there. Trust me, I went through it many times, especially in DevRel, and it's been 3 years and I feel a lot more confident in myself now. So
perfect. I love that. The last fast question, and then we'll say goodbye. See Liran saying something. What does Google look when hiring for a DevRel role?
That's a great question. They are looking for, I would say, first and foremost, domain expertise and communication skills together. So they want someone who is really a representative of your area, externally, very visible, and has done a lot of great work supporting those projects, whether it's open source or whether it's something that is for a product that is in a different company, somebody who's extremely visible and a very, very clear winner in their domain. And I would never want to underestimate the communication skills needed. So I think DevRel is both very important.
Yeah, I'm starting doing some Twitter Spaces. I don't know if you know what's that. No, one of the main topics, it was exactly communication, because I think it's something that we really need to improve. So yeah, I like to make these Twitter Spaces every Tuesday if you want to come, and usually talk about human skills. I don't talk about which JavaScript framework is the best, because I think it doesn't make sense in a Twitter space, which is like Clubhouse, if you know what is that.
Yeah.
So I like to talk about exactly this topic. So.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say the last thing that I would say is they're looking for are also people who make an impact in that space. So if you have contributed to a project and you have made changes in the community and you've moved the community forward in some way, they're looking for that type of impact. So not just presenting information, but you have actually affected change, or you have proven that you're valuable to that product area. So that's the last piece of advice I'll give.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This has been really an incredible episode. Liran is saying that we need part 2. I don't know. It depends. Stephanie,
we can do that.
Because for me, she can come even every day if she wants. But let's say maybe in the future. Yeah, we have a lot of people thanking you. Thank you, of course. Best luck with that. Good luck. Thanks. And also thank you everyone for coming. Please follow Stephanie on Twitter, because you'll never regret that. She does amazing videos, podcasts, good developer advocate. So I don't know what you're expecting for. So Stephanie, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
thank
incredible. You so much. It was a really fun conversation. And yeah, if you all want to connect with me on online, Twitter, it's at Steph R _Wong.
Yeah,
So, connect with me.
there is an R. Yeah, Steph R.
There
because
is an R. Yeah.
Yeah.
Steph Wong was taken.
Yeah. I have a 4 at the end of my name, so yeah. Yeah.
I should have done that too.
Perfect. Thank you, Stephanie. Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye. See you next
Bye.
time. Wait a moment.